The testimony you are about to listen to was sent to us by a lady. She wanted to share an experience she witnessed in heaven, and also, she was shown something that no one has actually thought about. So I encourage you to watch this video to the very end to fully understand her experience. Before we continue, please let me know where you're listening from. It would be nice to feel closer, even if we're physically apart. Also, don't forget to like. It will help this video to reach so many people who need to listen to this testimony, and leave a comment. Share your thoughts about this near-death experience testimony. Let's have a fair and open discussion so we can learn from each other here on this channel, and don't forget to subscribe for more of this content coming your way. Enjoy listening. My name is Gift, and I am 28 years old. I want to share with you the most life-changing experience I have ever had. I had been going through a difficult season. My job as a school teacher barely paid enough to cover my bills. My relationship with my family was strained, and I felt like I was just going through the motions of living. Every day felt the same: wake up, go to work, come home tired, watch television, and go to bed. I attended church on Sundays, but even that felt routine and empty. That particular day, I was feeling especially low. I had just received another rejection letter for a teaching position at a better school, and my landlord had reminded me that rent was due in 3 days. I sat on my small apartment couch, staring at the bills scattered on my coffee table, wondering if life would ever get better. God, if you're really there, I whispered into the quiet room. I need to understand what I'm doing wrong. I try to be good. I go to church. I help others when I can, but nothing seems to change. What am I missing? That night, I went to bed feeling defeated and empty, but what happened next changed everything. I found myself standing in what looked like the most beautiful building I had ever seen. The walls were made of what appeared to be pearl, and they glowed with a soft, warm light. The floors looked like they were made of pure gold, but they weren't cold like regular gold. They felt warm and welcoming under my bare feet. I was wearing a simple white robe that was so clean and bright it almost hurt to look at. The air around me smelled like the sweetest flowers, and I could hear the most beautiful music playing softly in the distance. It was like nothing I had ever experienced on earth. As I looked around in wonder, I noticed I was standing in front of what looked like a bank, but this wasn't like any bank I had ever seen. The building stretched up so high I couldn't see the top, and it was wider than any building I could imagine. Above the entrance, written in letters of gold, were the words "Heaven's Treasury." I felt someone approach me from behind. When I turned around, I saw the most kind and gentle face I had ever seen. The person was tall and dressed in flowing white robes, with eyes that seemed to hold all the love in the universe. "Welcome, Gift," the person said, and somehow I knew this was Jesus, though he looked different than in any picture I had ever seen. His voice was like music, and when he spoke my name, it felt like coming home after a long journey. "Lord," I said, falling to my knees. "I don't understand. Where am I?" He reached out his hand and helped me to my feet. "You asked to understand what you were missing," he said with a smile. "Come, let me show you." Jesus led me through the massive golden doors of the treasury. Inside, the space was even more amazing than the outside. There were countless rows of what looked like safety deposit boxes, stretching as far as I could see. Each box was labeled with a name written in beautiful handwriting. "This is Heaven's Treasury," Jesus explained as we walked. "Every person who has ever lived has an account here. This is where all the deposits of their earthly life are kept." I looked around in amazement. Some of the boxes were overflowing with what looked like precious jewels, gold coins, and items that glowed with their own inner light. Others were moderately full, and some were nearly empty. "What are those things?" I asked, pointing to the glowing items. "Those," Jesus said, "are the deposits that matter most. Acts of love, moments of worship, Times when someone chose to trust me instead of worry. Instances of forgiveness, prayers offered in faith, words of encouragement spoken to others, and moments when someone chose joy despite their circumstances. We stopped in front of one box that was overflowing with treasures. The nameplate read Sarah Thompson. Sarah was a janitor at a hospital, Jesus explained. She never made much money, and most people didn't notice her. But every day, she smiled at the patients, prayed for the sick, and cleaned with love in her heart. She saw her work as serving me, and she deposited treasures here every single day. I was amazed. But she was just a janitor, I said. Jesus looked at me with those loving eyes. Gift, in my kingdom, the greatest treasures come not from what the world values, but from a heart that loves me and loves others. Sarah understood this. We walked on, and Jesus showed me more boxes. There was one belonging to a man named David who had been a wealthy businessman. His box had some treasures, but it wasn't as full as I expected. David made a lot of money, Jesus said, and he gave some to charity, which is good, but he spent most of his time worrying about his business and very little time thinking about me or others. He deposited some treasures here, but not as many as he could have. Then we stopped at another box that made my heart sink. It had my name on it, Gift Margaret Johnson. I looked at my box with growing horror. It was almost completely empty. There were a few small items scattered at the bottom. They looked dull and lifeless compared to the glowing treasures in other boxes. I don't understand, I whispered, tears starting to form in my eyes. I go to church. I try to be good. I help people when I can. Jesus put his hand gently on my shoulder. Tell me about your typical day, Gift. I thought for a moment. Well, I wake up and usually I'm already worried about the day ahead. I think about my bills, my problems, how tired I am. I go to work and teach, but mostly I'm just trying to get through the day. I come home, eat dinner while watching the news, which usually makes me more worried, and then I go to bed thinking about all my problems. And when do you worship me? Jesus asked gently. I was quiet for a moment. Well, on Sundays at church, and sometimes I pray when I really need something. And when do you choose joy? This question hit me hard. Joy? Lord, it's hard to feel joyful when you're struggling to pay bills and nothing seems to go right. Jesus nodded with understanding. I know life on earth is difficult, Gift, but let me show you what you've been missing. Jesus waved his hand, and suddenly the air around us filled with images, like watching movies projected in the sky. This was last Tuesday, he said. The first image showed me walking to work, my head down, earphones in, completely focused on my own thoughts and worries. You walked past Mrs. Chen, your elderly neighbor, who was struggling with her groceries. You didn't notice because you were too focused on your own problems. A simple "good morning, can I help?" would have been a deposit of love. The image changed to show Mrs. Chen struggling alone, and then it showed what could have happened me helping her. Her face lighting up with gratitude, both of us smiling. But Lord, I protested. I was already running late for work. I know, Jesus said gently, but love doesn't always come at convenient times. And when you choose love over your own comfort or schedule, it creates treasure in heaven. The next image showed me in my classroom, teaching math to my students. I was going through the motions, clearly bored and wanting to be anywhere else. You see teaching as just a job, Jesus said, but I placed you there for a purpose. Each of those children is precious to me. When you teach with love, when you encourage them, when you see your classroom as a mission field, every moment becomes a deposit. The image changed to show what it could look like, me engaging with my students, encouraging a struggling child, laughing with them, praying silently for them during the day. This was yesterday evening, Jesus continued, showing me sitting on my couch, scrolling through social media and watching the news. You spent 3 hours absorbing negativity, fear, and comparison with others. But you could have spent even 15 minutes of that time in worship, reading my word, or praying for others. The alternative image showed me with my Bible open, or kneeling in prayer, or even just sitting quietly and thanking God for the good things in my life. And this, Jesus said, showing me lying in bed the night before, was when you fell asleep rehearsing all your problems and fears instead of trusting them to me. I saw myself tossing and turning, my mind racing with worry. Then the image changed to show me peacefully giving my concerns to God and falling asleep with a prayer of trust on my lips. Every time you choose worry over trust, Jesus explained, you miss an opportunity to deposit faith. Every time you choose complaining over gratitude, you miss a deposit of praise. Every time you focus on what's wrong instead of what's right, you miss a deposit of joy. Jesus led me to a comfortable chair that appeared out of nowhere, and he sat across from me. Let me help you understand the different types of deposits, he said. The first and most important is love. As he spoke, golden coins appeared in his hands, each one glowing with warmth. Every act of love, no matter how small, becomes treasure in heaven. Smiling at a stranger, helping someone in need, listening when someone wants to talk, forgiving someone who hurt you, being patient when you'd rather be angry. These are deposits of love. The coins in his hands began to multiply. The second type is worship, he continued, and now silver coins joined the gold ones. Worship isn't just singing songs in church. It's living your whole life as an offering to me. When you do your work as if you're doing it for me, when you treat others with kindness because you love me, when you choose to trust me instead of worry, all of this is worship. The third type is faith, he said, and now bronze coins appeared, but they glowed just as brightly as the others. Every time you choose to trust me when things look impossible, every time you believe I have good plans for you, even when you can't see them, every time you step out in obedience, even when you're afraid, these create deposits of faith. The fourth type is joy, he continued, and now coins of every color of the rainbow appeared. Joy isn't happiness that depends on circumstances. Joy is choosing to trust that I am good and I am in control, even when life is hard. When you choose to be grateful for what you have instead of complaining about what you lack, when you choose to see my blessings even in difficult times, this creates deposits of joy. The fifth type is service, he said, and now the coins began to form beautiful crowns. Every time you serve others, especially when no one else notices, you serve me. When you do small acts of kindness, when you help someone without expecting anything in return, when you use your gifts and talents to bless others, these are deposits of service. I watched in amazement as the treasures in his hands continued to multiply and grow more beautiful. The sixth type is prayer, he said, and now beautiful pearls appeared among the other treasures. Not just prayers asking for things, but prayers of gratitude, prayers for others, prayers of worship, even prayers of honest complaint when you're struggling. When you talk to me throughout the day, not just when you need something, these create deposits of prayer. But Lord, I said, I never understood this before. I thought being a Christian was about following rules and going to church. Jesus smiled the most beautiful smile I had ever seen. Gift, following me isn't about rules. It's about relationship. It's about seeing every moment of your life as an opportunity to know me better and to love others better. He stood up and walked over to my nearly empty box. The wonderful thing about grace is that it's never too late to start making deposits. You have the rest of your life to fill this treasury. Suddenly, my box began to change. It grew larger and brighter, and I could see that it had the potential to hold infinite treasures. But how? I asked. How do I change? How do I remember to make these deposits when life gets busy and difficult? Start with your heart, Jesus said. Each morning, before you even get out of bed, talk to me. Ask me to help you see the day through my eyes. Ask me to help you love the people you'll encounter. Thank me for the gift of another day. He walked closer to me, and I could feel the love radiating from him. When you're at work, remember that you're not just teaching math. You're shaping young hearts and minds that I love deeply. Pray for your students. Encourage them. Let them see my love through your patience and kindness. When you encounter difficult people, remember that they are also my children, probably carrying their own pain and struggles. Choose to respond with grace instead of irritation. When you're tempted to worry, remember that I am your Father who loves you more than you can imagine. I know what you need before you ask. Choose to trust instead of fear. When you see someone in need, don't just walk by thinking someone else will help. I may have put you in that exact place at that exact time to be my hands and feet. When you're tempted to complain about your circumstances, choose instead to look for things you can be grateful for. There are always blessings, even in difficult times. Jesus took both of my hands in his, and I felt such warmth and love that I never wanted to let go. Gift, I'm giving you a challenge and a promise, he said. The challenge is to live each day intentionally, looking for opportunities to make deposits in heaven. Don't let a single day pass without depositing something in your treasury. I felt both excited and overwhelmed. What if I forget? What if I fail? You will forget sometimes, Jesus said with understanding. You will fail sometimes, but each time you remember, each time you choose love over selfishness, worship over routine, faith over fear, joy over complaining, service over self-focus, and prayer over silence, you are making deposits. And here is my promise, he continued, and his eyes seemed to hold all the stars in the universe. As you learn to live this way, you will discover something wonderful. The joy, peace, and fulfillment you've been searching for on earth will begin to grow in your heart. The more you deposit in heaven, the more heaven will be deposited in you. He gestured to my box, which was now glowing with potential. When you live with an eternal perspective, when you see each day as an opportunity to serve me and love others, your life on earth becomes richer and more meaningful than you ever imagined. Suddenly, I found myself back in my small apartment, sitting on my couch, but everything was different. The same bills were scattered on my coffee table, the same problems existed, but something fundamental had changed inside me. I looked at the clock. It was 6 a.m. I had somehow slept through the entire night, and instead of waking up with my usual anxiety about the day ahead, I felt peaceful and excited. Thank you, Lord, I whispered, and I meant it in a way I never had before. Thank you for showing me what really matters. Help me to live today in a way that makes deposits in heaven. I got up and made breakfast, but instead of rushing through it while checking my phone, I took time to be grateful for the food, for my home, for the new day, my first deposit of gratitude. As I walked to work, instead of putting in my earphones, I looked around for opportunities to show love. I saw Mrs. Chun struggling with her garbage cans and hurried over to help. Her surprised smile and grateful thank you felt like making my first conscious deposit in heaven's treasury. At school, I looked at my students with new eyes. Instead of seeing them as obstacles to getting through my lesson plan, I saw them as precious children that God loves. I smiled more, encouraged them more, and found myself actually enjoying teaching for the first time in years. During lunch, instead of scrolling through social media, I prayed for each of my students by name. I asked God to help me be the teacher they needed, and I thanked Him for the privilege of being part of their lives. That first day set the pattern for a completely new way of living. Every morning, I started with prayer and gratitude. I asked God to help me see opportunities to make deposits throughout the day. Instead of viewing interruptions as inconveniences, I began to see them as divine appointments. When a student stayed after class to talk about a problem at home, instead of being impatient to leave, I listened with genuine care and prayed for them silently while they talked. When the grocery store clerk seemed rude, instead of getting offended, I wondered what kind of difficult day they might be having and made an effort to be extra kind and patient. When my family called with their usual complaints and drama, instead of dreading the conversation, I tried to listen with love and speak words of encouragement. The changes in my life were gradual but dramatic. My relationships improved as I focused more on giving love than receiving it. My job became fulfilling as I saw it as a mission field rather than just a paycheck. My financial situation didn't change immediately, but my anxiety about money decreased dramatically as I learned to trust God and focus on what I could control. Most importantly, I discovered the joy that Jesus had promised. Not happiness that depended on circumstances, but deep joy that came from knowing I was living with purpose, making a difference in the lives of others, and storing up treasures in heaven. 6 months after my vision, I can honestly say that life is completely different, even though my external circumstances haven't changed dramatically. I still live in the same small apartment, I still teach at the same school, and I still face many of the same challenges. But now I face them with hope, purpose, and joy. I wake up each morning excited about the opportunities I'll have to make deposits in heaven's treasury. I've learned to see every interaction as a chance to show God's love, every challenge as an opportunity to demonstrate faith, and every ordinary moment as a chance to worship. I've also learned that making deposits in heaven's treasury isn't just about big, dramatic acts of service. It's about the small, daily choices to love instead of judge, to encourage instead of criticize, to trust instead of worry, and to serve instead of focus only on myself. Sometimes people ask me what changed, because they notice that I seem more peaceful and joyful despite my circumstances not being perfect. I tell them about my vision and about learning to live with an eternal perspective. Some think I'm crazy, but others are interested. I've had the joy of helping several friends begin their own journey of intentional deposit making. There's something wonderful about encouraging others to see their lives through the lens of eternity. If you've watched this far, I want you to know that you have your own box in heaven's treasury. It doesn't matter what your life looks like right now, how many mistakes you've made, or how empty you think your account might be. Every day is a new opportunity to make deposits that will last for eternity. You don't have to wait for your circumstances to be perfect. You don't have to wait until you have more money, more time, or fewer problems. You can start today right where you are with what you have. Look for opportunities to love someone today. Choose to trust God instead of worry. Find something to be grateful for. Speak words of encouragement. Help someone in need. Pray for someone who has hurt you. Do your work as if you're doing it for God. These small acts may seem insignificant, but they're creating treasures in heaven that will last forever. And as you learn to live this way, you'll discover what I discovered, that the joy, peace, and fulfillment we're all searching for comes not from what we can get from life, but from what we can give to life. The most amazing discovery of all is that as we store up treasures in heaven, heaven begins to be stored up in us. The love, joy, peace, and purpose we invest in eternity begins to transform our present reality. This is the secret that changed my life, and it can change yours too. Start today. Start now. Your account is waiting, and every moment is an opportunity to make a deposit that will echo through eternity. Thank you for listening. If you have been blessed, please like this video. It will help YouTube to show it to more audience who need to hear about these testimonies today. Also share this video to your loved ones. It will be a great way to communicate Christ to others, and that will be the greatest gift you can give to those that you love. If you have any testimony you would want us to share to our audience and you feel that it will bless the body of Christ, you can leave a comment in the comment section. We will attend to it as soon as we receive it. If you are yet to subscribe to our channel, please do so. It's free and it's a way of joining this great community of believers. Join us today and your life will not remain the same. Until next time, remain blessed.